Welcome to this Tempo Storm card reveal for the newest Shadowverse set, Dawn of Calamity. Take a look at Carmia, Miracle Optimist, a cute new addition to the Havencraft class. The art suggests she is at a medieval festival in some fantasy kingdom, playing with some happy kids. She also has a cool weapon that looks like it can shoot green lasers, or maybe even fireworks. Dawn of Calamity features characters that are part of the universe that was used for the cards of the Shadowverse anime and the Nintendo Switch game. However, Carmia is not one of those characters, so no comparison can be drawn with other versions of the card. In the past, we saw effects that depended on the cards you had in play. Earth Sorceress read draw X cards, X equals the number of allied amulets in play. Enchanted Knight worked the same way, but with allied ward followers in play. And then there was Lord Atomy, who gets its cost reduced to 0 if there are 4 allied cards in play and destroys all of your followers and amulets on Fanfare. Carmia Miracle Optimist Fanfare condition is a variation that we have not seen before. Basically, if you have 2 or 3 cards, they can be followers or amulets, which is relevant in the Havencraft class, on board before playing her. She is a 2-play point 2/2 draw 1, which is helpful in maintaining hand size and finding key cards while developing on the board. If you have 4 cards on board and you play her to fill your last board space, she evolves by herself. You can imagine playing some followers first to fill your board and then playing her afterward, and you'd still have the option to evolve one of your other followers. Notice that the wording is not if you have 3 or more cards for the draw effect. It means that if you play her as the 5th card of your board for the evolve effect, you will not get the draw. This is similar to how Vern Lil Red Dragon works, where you have to choose between the draw or the self-evolution. Her self-evolution condition is currently impossible to fill on turn 2 for Havencraft, unless we get 0 playpoint amulets or a card like Undead Parade to fill 2 spaces on turn 1, but it is doable on turn 3 with 3 1 playpoint amulets. Nadarin Great Tree can also help fill the condition as a 1 playpoint amulet that's easy to play and will stay on the board for the whole game. Trying to fill 2 board spaces with only followers might be harder though, as those are vulnerable to the opponent's removal. Going second, the opponent will have many occasions to deny the Carmia draw by trading into your followers or using removal spells on them. If you struggle to field a board that survives your opponent's turn, it might become annoying to try and fulfill Carmia's draw effect, because playing more cards for the fanfare means that you might run out of play points to play the card you draw. Once evolved, Carmia inherits the effect of Blazing Lion Admiral, giving 1/1 to all other allied followers on attack. Evolving virtually gives her rush and the ability to attack and trigger this effect on the turn she is played. 2 things to keep in mind though: she does not buff herself, and you need a target to attack if you want the buff, which is not possible if your opponent left his board empty. In rotation, the buff effect synergizes mainly with the neutral followers of Storm over Ryvale, which can be considered for aggro Haven decks if the archetype exists in the Dawn of Calamity future meta. Even without synergy, this evolve effect is scary enough to make Carmia a priority target to remove for your opponent. The fact that she has ward makes it close to impossible to protect her from opponents' attacks though, so unless you are fighting a very passive deck or your opponent is having a very bad game, you should not expect Carmia to survive and trigger her buff effect more than once. If you manage to fill 4 board spaces and play Carmia, she will evolve by her own effect. This is a very powerful ability, as effects of this sort have historically allowed for good trades, a direct reaction to your opponent's board, and therefore better tempo. Cards like Marie, Flowery Magician, Dogged Detective, Devilish Diva, or even Soulbox have shared this effect, although they were linked to different conditions, and these cards still saw play in their respective classes. In the best case scenario, you can imagine starting your turn 4 or 5 with 3 spaces filled by countdown amulets reaching 0 and summoning followers. You can then play a Carmia to draw a card, then play a second Carmia that evolves herself, manually evolve the first Carmia, and attack with both of them for a 2/2 on the rest of your board and 1/1 on the Carmias. If you manage to put these buffs on Storm followers like Regal Falcon or already big followers like Anvelt Judgment's Cannon, this can be a game-winning high roll. Self-evolution followers always lead to one deck-building question. If we have enough ways to reach 5 followers evolved in one game, thanks to followers that can evolve without evolution point or by their own effects, can I use Grimnir, Void-Wrought Wind as my main or substitute win condition? Resolve of the Fallen unfortunately rotates, but Jupiter, the new neutral legendary, also has a 5 followers evolved condition for a stronger defensive effect, and Carmia can help fulfill this condition in Havencraft. Let's look at the current Haven archetypes, how the cards leaving are going to affect them, and see if Carmia can fit into them. Lists are from the most recent Tempo Storm meta snapshot. Sanctuary Haven. With double Holy Sanctuary and 2 healing effects, you already fill 4 board spaces. If you manage to heal twice without playing an additional follower, you can play a self-evolving Carmia and boost the Holy Flame Tigers for an even better board. Outside of that, it should be pretty easy to draw with her, even with just 1 Sanctuary on the board. However, Sanctuary loses a lot of key cards, and it will struggle to recover from the loss of its win conditions. Carmia has no healing effect, so she does not look like she is something Sanctuary needs to stay relevant. Ward Haven. As a ward follower in a board-based deck, Carmia is right in her element. She provides draw in a deck that needs it, and her effects can be triggered thanks to Anvelt, Judgment's Cannon, Amulets sticking around, and Lunarian Paladins filling the board, making your pop-off turns even more menacing. The deck traditionally plays Grimnir, and triggering Carmia's self-evolve will help with the condition for the burst 10 damage. 4-Pillar Tortoise was a tutor for Lunarian Paladin, which could have helped set up enough followers on the board more consistently. Reverend Adjudicator would also have had great synergy with Carmia where he was not rotating. The biggest concern for Ward Haven, however, is losing Sarisa, Lux Flash Spear, one of the deck's key win conditions in the early game. No doubt Carmia would be played in Ward Haven, but the deck might need a new win condition to see play in the future Dawn of Calamity meta. Amulet Haven. The Jatelant build does not need an extra draw engine that is not an amulet for Jatelant's condition. It doesn't focus on the board, and it would make no use of the evolve effect. However, the Frigg Selena build does play amulets with long countdowns turning into followers, which means Carmia should be active most of the time and can enhance the Selena boards. Prisma Plume Bird is the only relevant card that rotates in that deck, and it can be easily replaced. Eris Haven. With the relic amulets spawning on every turn after you evolve Eris, it should be pretty easy to fill the Carmia condition. However, the evolve effect is kinda wasted, as Eris Haven typically fills the board with amulets only and no followers to buff. The deck is losing the passive win conditions of Haven Ra and Zeljanea's leader effects, so there's no way right now to see if it is going to adapt into a more proactive form that includes Carmia. Carmia Miracle Optimist is a card that could have felt win more if it was in any other class than Havencraft, where decks usually revolve around filling the board with amulets. Upon analyzing, it seems the deck she would fit in the best is a Ward Haven with some evolve payoffs. A deck like that is very likely to also use Jupiter, another ward follower that has better effects if you evolve enough followers. Outside of that, Carmia can have some uses in other archetypes, so expect to see people trying her out in various decks during the first days of the release. As the meta stabilizes, she might suffer from the competition with Master Chef for the slot of 2 PP 2/2 with Ward, a card that can also draw and will now be the only effect that can increase maximum leader defense in rotation. We give this card a B because 2 PP followers with a conditional draw 1 effect are often good. Her self-evolve helps to push payoffs like Grimnir and Jupiter, and her board buff helps with big tempo pushes. However, she currently has no extra effect if played right on turn 2. She requires a board both on you and your opponent's sides to take advantage of her strike effect, and she limits your flexibility with early plays. Thanks for watching our Carmia Miracle Optimist reveal. Be sure to subscribe to the Tempo Strategy YouTube channel and check out tempostorm.com for all the latest Shadowverse content. We'll see you next time.